Blender is one of the best 3D software today, but this was not always the case, because it went through an interesting journey like no other one, and the least we can say about it that it was long and difficult, because it almost died at some point in its path of becoming what it is today. The history of Blender was filled with successes and failures, but it is the thing that took it from nothingness to greatness, and this is the story of Blender. It all started with the story of an ambitious young man called Ton Roosendaal. He originally wanted to be an architect, but he later studied industrial design because he wanted to do something creative and technical in the same time. Ton was a talented man with many different skills who had a passion for computer graphics, so he decided to start a company to have money to buy better and more expensive computers, to work as a full-time computer graphics designer, and to do 3D animation. In 1988, when he was 29 years old, Ton Roosendaal co-founded the Dutch animation studio called Neo Geo. On the other side of the world in Japan, Neo Geo was also known as a family of video game hardware consoles developed by SNK, and it was actually on the market from 1990 to 2004, so basically Ton Roosendaal's company was the first that had that name. Neo Geo started in a studio in Eindhoven in the Netherlands. They launched the studio with a business partner, and they got 7 employees doing computer graphics work. The real work for Neo Geo started in 1991 when they bought their first big silicon graphics computer, which was capable of doing real-time wireframe and solids. And this computer cost them about $60,000, which was a big portion of their profits at the time. But before, when they were working on the Amiga, they were not having a very good experience working on their projects because they had to render the wireframe, which was time-consuming. Neo Geo quickly became the largest 3D animation studio in the Netherlands and one of the leading animation houses in Europe. It created award-winning productions for large corporate clients such as the multinational electronics company Philips, and they were awarded the European Corporate Video Awards of 1993 and 1995. Within Neo Geo, Ton was responsible for both art direction and internal software development. After a careful deliberation, Ton decided that the current in-house 3D toolset for Neo Geo was too old and cumbersome to maintain, and needed to be rewritten from scratch. So in 1995, this rewrite began and was destined to become the 3D software creation we all now know as Blender. Ton Roosendaal embarked on the journey of making his own 3D software step by step, and he was learning new things and having fun throughout the process of trial and error. But he wanted it to be different and not exactly like the 3D software available in the marketplace like Softimage and 3ds Max. And the first version of Blender was published in 1998. First, it was only compatible with Silicon Graphics operating system called IRIX. Few months later, they had the Linux version, FreeBSD version, and later on they hired an employee to work on the Windows version. As Neo Geo continued to refine and improve Blender, it became apparent to Ton Roosendaal that Blender could be used as a tool for other artists outside of Neo Geo. Later, Ton decided to sell Neo Geo because it was financially difficult to stay in the business of visualization and graphic design. Also because of the other markets were emerging, especially the explosion of the internet businesses. In 1998, Ton decided to create a new company called Not a Number, or NAN, as a spin-off of Neo Geo to further market and develop Blender. At the core of the NAN was a desire to create and distribute a compact, cross-platform 3D application for free. It was free, but there were some locked features that you had to pay for. So basically the company at the time sold keys to unlock more features. For $50 or $100 it was possible to unlock advanced features in Blender. At the time, it was a revolutionary concept, as most commercial 3D applications cost thousands of dollars. The NAN hoped to bring professional level 3D modeling and animation tools within the reach of the general computing public. So basically, Not a Number's business model involved providing commercial products and services around Blender. And in 1999, Not a Number attended the first SIGGRAPH conference in an effort to more widely promote Blender. Blender's first SIGGRAPH convention was a huge success and gathered a tremendous amount of interest from both press and attendees. So Blender was a hit, and its huge potential was confirmed. Following the successive SIGGRAPH conference in early 2000, NAN secured financing of 4.5 million euros from venture capitalists. This large inflow of cash enabled the NAN to rapidly expand its operations. Soon, the NAN boasted as many as 50 employees working around the world trying to improve and promote Blender, which meant that the company was burning through the money so fast it was unbelievable. In the summer of 2000, Blender 2.0 was released. This version of Blender added the integration of a game engine to the 3D application. By the end of 2000, the number of users registered at the NAN website exceeded 250,000. Unfortunately, the NAN's ambitions and opportunities did not match the company's capabilities and the market realities of the time. So overextension resulted in restarting the NAN with new investor funding and a smaller company in April 2001. 6 months later, the NAN's first commercial software product, Blender Publisher, was launched. This product was targeted at an emerging market of interactive web-based 3D media, and due to disappointing sales and the ongoing difficult economic climate, the investors called Ton Roosendaal and told him that they are losing too much money investing in his company, so they had to exit within 9 months, especially with the dot-com bubble and burst that happened around that time. So the new investors decided to shut down all the NAN operations. The shutdown also included discontinuing the development of Blender, although there were clearly shortcomings in that version of Blender, such as a complex internal software architecture, unfinished features, a non-standard way of providing the GUI. The enthusiastic support from the user community and customers who had purchased Blender before meant that Ton Roosendaal could not justify leaving Blender to fade into insignificance. When Ton Roosendaal was approached by investors, he owned 100% of Blender, but after all of this happened, he ended up only with 10%, which put him in a difficult situation that was not easy to get out of because he had to do a lot of convincing. Since restarting a company with a sufficiently large team of developers was not feasible, Ton Roosendaal founded a non-profit organization called the Blender Foundation in March 2002. The Blender Foundation's primary goal was to find a way to continue developing and promoting Blender as a community-based open-source project, and in July 2002, Ton managed to get the NAN investors to agree to a unique Blender Foundation plan to attempt to release Blender as an open-source program. The Free Blender campaign sought to raise 100,000 euros so that the foundation could buy the rights to the Blender source code and intellectual property rights from the NAN investors and subsequently release Blender to the open source community. With an enthusiastic group of volunteers, among them several ex-non-number employees, a fundraising campaign was launched to free Blender. To everyone's surprise and delight, the campaign reached the 100,000 euros goal in only short 7 weeks. On Sunday, October 13th, 2002, Blender was released to the world under the terms of the GNU GPL. With Blender originating as an in-house creation tool, the day-to-day feedback and interaction of both developing and using the software was one of its most outstanding features. In the first 2.5 years of open source development, it was especially this uniqueness of Blender that was proven to be difficult to organize and maintain. The Blender Foundation decided to start a project to bring together the most outstanding artists in the Blender community and challenge them to make an exciting 3D animation short film. This is how Project Orange started in 2005, which resulted in the world's first and widely recognized open movie Elephant's Dream. Not only was it entirely created using open source tools, the end result and all the assets that were created in the studio were published under the open source license, the Creative Commons attribute. Ton Roosendaal established the Blender Institute in the summer of 2007. This now is the permanent office and studio to more efficiently organize the Blender Foundation goals, but especially to coordinate and facilitate open projects related to 3D movies, games, or visual effects. In April 2008, the Peach Project, the movie Big Bug Bunny, was completed in the Blender Institute, and in September 2008, the open game You Frankie was released. Also in September 2010, the short film Sintao premiered at the Netherlands Film Festival with a sold-out screening in a 450-seat theater. Early 2008 was also the start of the Blender 2.5 project, a major overhaul of the UI, tool definitions, data access systems, event handling, and animation system. The main target was to re-implement the core of Blender, originally developed in the mid-90s, to bring it up to contemporary interface standards and input methods. A first alpha version of Blender 2.5 was presented at SIGGRAPH 2009. The online team of developers has since then focused on 2.4 functionality and finishing the new design according to specifications. A final version of 2.5 was released in 2011. In 2012, the focus was put on further developing and exploring a visual effect creation pipeline. Topics that were tackled included motion tracking, camera solving, masking, grading, and good color pipeline. Blender Institute 5th open project, the short film Tears of Steel, contributed a lot to this. In 2014, Caminandes, which is an independently produced series of computer animated short films, was produced and released by the Blender Foundation. The film won the 2014 Jerry Goldsmith Award for the Best Score for an Animated Short Film at the International Film Music Festival in Spain. In this year, Blender improved a little bit further with support for volume rendering and small improvements to the user interface, in addition to support for baking in cycles. In 2015, Blender development team added a lot of new features, especially to cycles, which made it a lot better, and that was apparent in the Blender Institute's 5th open movie project called Cosmos Laundromat. At SIGGRAPH 2015, various people from Pixar, Walt Disney Animation, DreamWorks, Industrial Light and Magic, and Sony ImageWorks praised the film for the storytelling, the character animation, and the visuals. In 2017, a bunch of useful features were added to Blender, which helped the animation studio team to work on the Blender Institute short film called Agent 327. The Blender Institute sought additional funding to kickstart the production of high-end 3D animated Agent 327 CG feature film. 2019 was a very important year in the history of Blender, because it was the year when Blender 2.8 was released. This version of Blender was and still is a pivotal point in the journey of Blender because it had a completely revamped UI with an additional dark theme, Eevee real-time rendering engine on OpenGL, more advanced Grease Pencil 2D animation tool, collections, and much more. Blender 2.8 attracted a large number of new artists, whether they are beginners or professionals. But most importantly, it attracted companies such as AMD and Ubisoft that are willing to invest further in the development of Blender. I hope this brief history of Blender was useful and informative. If you have something to add, please leave it in the comment section below. Also, you can check some of our previous videos. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.